chairman kind of nodded and agreed with you until Mr. Mikla said, no, it's not. And that's where we're coming from, is our concern that the board still wants to pass it through.
Okay.
So in order,
And that's not exactly what I said either, so,
yes, it is,
no, it
sir.
isn't.
Yes, it is. And so for you to say that we are not, are misleading people and such, there's been a lot of that going on from the other direction.
And I don't wanna get into an argument, cause this is my community, this is where I live.
Exactly.
But the day after the annual meeting, I received emails and calls from people saying, what is this? What does this mean? Is it true the board can no longer do zoning? And I would give them the politically correct rundown of this, not, you know, as the clerk job. And I had one gentleman say to me, what do you mean? We just had an election. Am I just a peon? That means nothing. Me and the 200 other people that voted for the board to keep on like they are, and it was about zoning, so I'm just a peon, that 37 people can override it. So when you say this is a last ditch effort, there's a lot of people in the community that are feeling betrayed by it because of the election. Okay. But
Then I guess people.
Let's one at a
that's
time,
where
one
we're
at a
at
time.
the
Let's go
meeting.
back to this gal. Go ahead.
So, we are new to the community. The only thing I ever hear the board say about the zoning is, do you want a slaughterhouse or a strip club next to you? So I started digging through this 98-page document. And it floors me. Like, you're literally shushing people in their homes. Talk about what kind of business I can have in my home, how much square footage I can use in my home. You know, I can't have parties selling stuff in my home more than 4 times a month.
Can I address that to you, please?
But
We had discussed that at one of our planning commission meetings, and there was a lot of that that was gonna be taken out of there, but we
it
didn't have a
hasn't
chance.
been. And I
It
think
hasn't,
that's where people
it's
get.
never been presented
It
to
hasn't
go
passed.
I know,
anywhere.
but that's where I work with legal, and that's where people get discomfort. When you're leaving stuff and you're saying, well, we might not impose it, well, when do you choose to take it out then? Because if it's not gonna be
The-
relevant,
well,
remove it.
The way it was supposed to work, now, just understand, the way it was supposed to work is we have a public hearing and those kinds of concerns, in specific concerns. This is the problem I have with this. The planning commission would meet, discuss those things, see if they could, if we need to make changes to those things. And then we would make those changes and have another meeting. That's kind of the way it was supposed to go. We never got to that point, because that meeting was not about that. It was, we don't want zoning. It never has been, we need to change what's in zoning. We've never got to that point. It's just we don't need it. That's why we put the whole question on the ballot of should we or should we not have zoning? Because
I think
if we
that's
can change any of the zoning that people are gives people heartburn, or that needs to be changed, or that the planning commission and the attorney feels that it can be. Those changes can all be made. We never got to that point. We've never even got to the point where we made sweeping changes in eliminating the, what was that, well, and the old one was planned urban development. It was about 70 pages of if you're gonna have a planned development, what you can and can't do. You can't have unlicensed cars, and you can't have horses, and all of those things that happen in more metropolitan areas. So that's the stuff that they eliminated out of the first one. When we came with the second draft of it, we never got to tweaking that.
Okay, 'cause to me.
We never, that's never been touched. The planning committee went through and deleted the stuff that they thought they could delete, which was a substantial amount. Was it enough? I don't know, but we never got to that point. We never got to the.
That's why people are uncomfortable, because some of the
Well,
stuff.
I don't think so.
we
I think the
communities
basic
don't even
uncomfort is we
push
just
this.
don't want it. We don't want anyone telling us what we can and can't do anywhere in our stuff, and that's fine, I get it, I don't either. I don't like it either, I don't like it. I've come to accept that it's maybe a necessary thing. I'd like to drive faster than I do too, but, you know, somebody tells me I can't. So, but we never got to the guts of the thing. It was a, no way, you don't have any right to tell me what to do. You guys are, yeah. And it just turned into a kind of what this did. And that's why I thought we put on a ballot, we found if we want it. It was a very close vote, 25 votes or something different. About half thought we should proceed, half thought we shouldn't. but the majority ruled, fine.
Well, I'm just wondering if people
But
have
I
done
think,
further
I
than
seriously
that
think we're
pro
driving,
building.
I really do think, and I don't know, at some point I became the poster child for that guy wants zoning. And that's not true. That's the last thing I want, and having us administer it's even less appealing. But the alternative is we're driving in an accident zone with no seatbelt. We have nothing. We have nothing. We don't have setbacks, we don't have, somebody could build 1 foot off your property line, we have nothing. They could build a pig barn 3 inches from the edge of your property, there's absolutely nothing. And I think it's dangerous. But if the majority of the people wanna take that chance, then I'm fine with it, fine, we won't have it. But then you can't come 5 years from now and say, what are you gonna do about that, what my neighbor's doing? Nothing.
What I have from your response, Mike, is I remember at the end of the hearing, the public hearing, we asked the board members individually that if we take the non-binding referendum and we vote on it, will you adhere to the results? You said you would.
Yes,
No one else on the board
correct,
would.
that's correct.
That made us all very, very frightened.
Yep, and they could, and quite honestly, if they want to, without village powers, those two could adopt county zoning. And then we're just, whatever the county says, they could do, because you don't need village powers to go into county zoning. I've never been a fan of it, I don't mean to sound like I'm on a soapbox, and I'm not, but I've never been a fan of it on county zoning, because Cady Township elects 1 member of a county board. And if you don't like the county zoning or what they have to say, you can affect 1 member of a 13-member panel. And so I thought when we started this whole thing, and another misconception, my fault, but I thought it was one or the other. We're having either county or we're doing it ourselves. And I'm like, no way will we go with county. We're far better off, because if worse comes to worse, all 3 of us can be elected by the people, unelected by the people who live here. So I would be opposed to that, but there's nothing that would stop them from doing that if they want to, if they decide that they want to proceed and grant zoning to the county.
I don't wanna do that either.
How do we go about educating folks? Because the process you describe is frankly enlightening to myself. I can't speak for anyone else in the room, but I didn't understand this process and how it plays out. Didn't realize that you guys had planned on taking certain aspects of this proposed zoning or whatever out. I think a lot of, as Jim says, the misconception, or however you want to phrase it, I think the next go around, to Pat's point, because it's inevitable, I'm probably the one person in here that I wouldn't describe myself as not willing to adopt some form of zoning, okay? So I think as we go forward, in order to make sure that the people who feel like a peon in the community aren't misrepresented, and a lot of folks in this room also get to have their voices heard, how do we, instead of going to a lawyer and having them draw up this 98-page document that we then have to amend?
That's another one of those things, though, and anyone who, I'm sure if you work in legal, a lot of what they draw up is
chucked out, I get it. So
Well,
how can we start at
what they
square
say-
one then?
What they say is, in order for it to be binding, it has to be this all-encompassing.
Sure.
And this part of the zoning can't differ with that part, so
So that's part of what
The-
this
the attorneys-
describing to me and understanding that. That's
yeah,
appreciated.
and the attorneys will say, well, you can't just say, it has to be binding. And to be that, you have to go into all this blah, blah, blah.
But can we at least define what we're afraid of, or what the undesirables we don't want in the community, and how we're
Well,
going
that's
to
not-
strategize? Maybe I'm
No,
misrepresenting.
you can't say that, but.
Sure.
Say that.
Maybe I'm speaking my own mind, I guess, but that's, because I'm with you, I don't wanna have somebody build a pig barn 3 inches off of my property line either, and I understand 100% where you're coming from is, don't complain to me in 5 years when it's happening on your farm, because I told you so. Okay?
Well,
And everybody thinks,
and
oh,
who's
we
to say
can
it
talk
wouldn't?
to our
And
neighbors.
Who's to say it would? I mean, we do have some things going, I've said it before, we have some things going for us in as much as, we don't have road infrastructure to support a lot of.
Sure,
Just
Which
because
is
we
by
don't,
default
so
gonna keep them
that
at bay.
helps
Yeah.
us, and that's helped us, I think that's why we haven't had a lot of,
sure.
and we have sanitary permit issues. So it's very expensive to have sanitary permits for big business.
Yeah,
So that's, and I think would continue to help us. I mean, I think that's what part of it is, but.
I guess I'm just saying how to include everyone, and that's a very difficult thing, that's why we elect a board. I just don't know how to get everybody to feel as if their voice is being heard, cause.
Well, and one thing I have learned is not, I mean, there is diametrically opposed people.
Yeah.
I don't want any, I want all, and there is, and a
And
lot
those
of
two
people say,
views,
well, there is
just
no support for
frankly,
zoning.
there's
There
no
is
room
too.
in this community for those two extreme views. That's just,
Correct.
that's unrealistic in this day and age, in my
And,
opinion.
and I think the board realizes we're not gonna satisfy 100%. And
Agreed.
satisfying 51% isn't good enough either, okay?
No,
But,
I
No,
don't
I've just
know.
been thinking
There's
about it a
no-
lot, how to get rid of the animosity, to unite people again, so that we're at least marching towards somewhat of a common goal instead of
well,
he said, she said.
I
I
think
haven't seen that,
I
I
think if we
personally, I've
had-
just seen I haven't seen a lot of, I haven't visited with a lot of you.
Mhm.
It's either been, for me at least, it's always been the exact opposites. I'm completely for, I'm completely against. I mean, maybe a few people were,
I think through education though, Mike, we can bridge the gap. Get rid of it's nothing that you're doing personally, but I have this fear of the unknown. If I don't know it, then someone can whisper in my ear, and even though it's bull, I believe it. Or, it starts to create doubt. Where, when we first, I don't mean to bring up the videotaping, but if we videotape this thing, or even if there's planning committee, and I realize it's gone, but I don't know, whatever we call it, the rejoining of Cady committee, okay, and we videotape it, nobody can misrepresent that. Don't tell me what I did say, and Jim can say, don't tell me I said such and such, play the damn tape, there it is. I didn't ever say that. And you can't complain that, oh, I couldn't make the meeting, says every Joe Sixpack who's not in this room, myself included,
Go ahead.
not that long ago.
To your point about the people you talk to are diametrically opposed, and that's, to piggyback of what he's saying, is, I've only lived in this community for 3.5 years. I didn't hear anything about zoning until 6 months ago, a year ago. So this was going on, and I had no idea. And what you're gonna get from people who show up to these things are people who are passionate one way or the other, right? To get the people who are willing to listen and communicate and maybe have an open mind one way or the other about these things, you gotta go out and beat the bushes to get people involved, right? I mean, we know, 40% of eligible voters tend to show up for elections. So 60% of the people who are gonna show up at the ballot box are never gonna sit in a meeting. And they're gonna talk to Joe next door, and whatever Joe next door thinks, that's not what I think, because I haven't gone out and I haven't educated myself as to what's going on. With the village powers being rescinded and what went on at the annual meeting is almost, you call it a blessing in disguise. It's an opportunity for a complete fresh start and to do this thing a little bit differently. And there's a lot of people in this community who weren't here when this thing started. And
I
so,
wasn't involved with the board when this started.
so to sit and to be able to have, not a board meeting where it's, he said, nobody cares anymore. The town powers are rescinded. That's all in the past. I oppose zoning, and I believe 100% that at some point, Cady Township's gonna have zoning. I think that's going to happen at some point. I think there's enough people here in this town who want it, and I think it's an inevitability. And while I oppose it strongly, am I willing to sit in a forum and have an intelligent conversation about what's necessary and what's not necessary? And to say this is probably a better solution than what's gonna happen if we adopt county zoning? Because we don't know that Jim and whatnot, they're gonna be sitting on the board. And right now, they say they don't wanna adopt county zoning.
That's the other bad
But 5
portion.
years
You
from now,
can't,
there's
you can't get out
on
of
the
it.
board. Maybe
Yeah.
It's very
they don't
difficult to
adopt
leave
county
Yeah.
county
Very
zoning.
difficult.
Once you
It's
join, you
dangerous.
can, but
So
in
you gotta-
10 years, you get out of it.
well, when they do a
be
new
involved in the
comprehensive plan.
process. And for me, I think with the reset, what happened at the annual meeting, this is a great opportunity to hold public forums that are purely designed for people to come and speak about their issues with zoning and their desire for zoning, and have open conversations about that 98-page document, and say, this is what we like and this is what we don't.
Well,
And what year from now-
that's the function of the hearing. The function of the hearing is to read the zoning, highlight what it is that you don't like and wanna change, present it to the planning committee, they evaluate, talk to the attorney, see if that's something that can change, republish the document with the changes that, but if the attorney thinks they can be, or have the explanation as to why he thinks they can't be, and then move on, go to the next stage. That's the,
But that's late in the game by the time you have a public hearing.
but you can't have a entire, you can't have 200 people writing.
No, but you can have public participation in other formats, and that was my whole point. There's resources that can help the township do that early in the process, rather than just wait till the public hearing at the end. I think you need to get people, representative people, however that is, and there's resources that can help you pick who they are or whatever. But I think you need a different approach.
I certainly wouldn't argue that that couldn't be done, but it would make those meetings, I mean.
Well, would you rather do that than do what you've done the
well,
last
either
two
that or we
times?
can- I mean, the options are, at least in my opinion, the options are three. We can continue without and not have any new ordinances. We can do that. Or we could give it to county to zone and wash our hands of it. And, you know, they'll have all the same things. They'll do the same exact process. Here's our public input meeting, and here's your zoning.
But you could choose to be different.
I don't think anybody wants that.
I sure don't.
I think there's another option, Mike, I really do, I think the gentleman in the corner is really onto something. If you were to take a look at the different segments that make up Cady Cheese, you've got the agricultural, you've got the people that work in the cities, or work in Eau Claire, that live here, residential, you've got the hobby farm, you've got people that just wanna be in the country, you've got the retired, the young families. And if you could get representatives from all of those segments, and these people are level-headed, not gonna bash you in the head people, they can sit around the table and talk about what we need. What do we not, what do we wanna try to?
Essentially,
Yes.
that's what
do
the
we
committee-
need?
That's what the planning committee is. You know, that's what we try to get.
No, but that's
Different-
that's appointed. They're all appointed people.
Correct. That's what the planning committee is.
Yeah, I know.
The nice
But
thing
you
is
try to
you've
pick a
got
group of
90
people that have a
pages.
very diverse background and diverse what they do, and have that so that that's your.
Is the committee that's being proposed kinda sorta, even of any interest to you guys? Do you think that's a viable option? And I realize it's gonna end up in some
I
pretty
think-
long nights and
I
conversations.
think possibly if we have a document that we sent to that committee.
Sure.
Look at this and make the changes rather than trying to do it at the giant public one. Make the changes before we have a hearing, that's probably doable. That,
Mike, we can't have a committee like that without.
I know.
Yeah, I
We don't
guess
have a planning committee.
I understand what you mean about not having village powers and stuff, but this would be more of a, community conversation type of a meeting. It wouldn't necessarily be anything actionable, it would be educational and getting like minds together, not necessarily moving the milestone any further than maybe if you wanna call it mending fences, I don't know. I had a conversation with Carla after the last meeting, you told me, go home and think about it, and I've been thinking about it a lot, about how do you get all of us to start working together again instead of fighting.
I got a
No
question.
In my mind that 1 year there's gonna be an annual meeting, it's gonna be the most well-attended annual meeting in Cady history.
Well,
And it's
look,
gonna be,
we
it could be a
we
community
can call a
building,
special
moment
meeting
for us to come
and
together as a
ask
township,
for
or
village powers and
it could be a shouting match.
zoning authority again.
Mm.
That's an option. I just don't know if I want to. This has been, I'll be honest with you, this has
Not
been
fun, I
a
bet.
horrible experience. It's just been a horrible experience.
It's fixable though.
That's why you need a different process than what's been done.
Mike, I have a question. The lawyers say that you have to have, you can't just like split things apart or whatever. But like, how, did you guys ever look into like how much they meant, like is it just, is it just the wording for each, individual situation, or is it, do they mean that you have to have, every aspect of the ordinance in
You
there?
have to, it has to be comprehensive and it has to be all-inclusive. You can't say, well, anyone can have a home business for whatever they want unless it's a problem. you can't do, you can't, it has to be, there has to be set guidelines, or I can't remember what the word he used, and I'm bad at legalese, it's comprehensive, I think is what the word they
But
use.
I think what he's saying is you have to have it said well enough that it'll go, if somebody objects it, it goes to court, that you're gonna win this on the way it's said, not the way you meant. You know what I mean? You have to get it
That's a
through
whole
court.
water, if you will.
Yeah.
All right. Say, people, like the majority of the township isn't isn't too concerned about home businesses. Is that something they could just take out and, you know,
I don't know. I can't answer that.
cause I think
Maybe.
if we could, like he said, if the community can come together and, you know, be more specific instead of, because right now we're all polar opposite because it's gotta be all or nothing. And I think if the actual concerns of the community are being addressed, and then it's gonna be a lot less polar, opposites. If that's a possibility, I think it would be a really good way to unite the community and have useful discussion on it.
Well, something to think about. I didn't deliberately didn't ask for this to be an agenda item because I don't think it's something we should knee-jerk react to. I wasn't happy about losing village powers. We've got a law change that we need to enact in regards to file storage, and we can't enact anything, we can't amend anything that we have on now. We can't amend any of the ordinances. And
Review that plan too this year.
yeah, comprehensive plan's supposed to be redone. There's a bunch of stuff that we can't do. There's a few exceptions to that too. I talked to the town's attorney, and there's some few exceptions. There are some things that the state mandates that you can, without village powers ordinances, that you can. There are some exceptions, so, and I don't know specifically what all they are. I know ATVs was one of them, and there's a couple, but I didn't have a chance to look at all of it. So, I don't want me to speak for the entire board, because I don't. I'm one guy, but I don't think it's anything we have to have a knee-jerk reaction and go to county zoning or call an immediate meeting. I think we can take our time and come to a rational decision, and if the rational decision is to do something, any of those options, then we'll move forward. And we'll post it on the agenda when we're gonna discuss it.
I have a question after she's gets hers in.
So just a couple things, and I'll make it really quick. And I just wanted to say, because I think I said this the last time, but you weren't there. So first of all, when we voted in November and the vote was no to zoning,
Correct.
just because people voted to keep these gentlemen in April, doesn't necessarily mean that they all of a sudden want zoning. It just meant that they were trusting them to uphold what they voted for in November. Not because all of a sudden I changed my mind between November and April. Second of all, I don't think that what's being said out there is telling people that, yeah, we don't want a pig farm or whatever. But have you actually told people that you can vote or that you can give permission to those businesses to come in here if you decide you want them in here? And then third,
Well, not exactly. That's a process. Should it be adopted, should zoning be adopted, they would ask the planning commission, they would ask the board, and they'd ask the zoning board of appeals, and then it would go to the state.
sure, but what I'm
So-
saying
so
is that
not
just
this-
because we adopt zoning doesn't mean that that's all gonna stop.
Oh, no.
No, but people aren't being told that. People think if we get zoning, none of that will happen.
Oh, no.
And that's not necessarily
That's not,
true.
I've never
And so
presented it
that
that
is
way.
why we are saying
You can't say
it's
you
being
can't do anything.
misrepresented.
You can't stop it. You can just tell it where it can be. If somebody wants to build an adult entertainment center in our township, they can.
Right, but
But
that's
we can tell them
actually,
it's not gonna be next to the church.
but that's actually my third point. There are already industry type zoning in Cady.
No,
There are because there's already people here, or
There's no
commercial,
zoning. no,
it's zoned for commercial property.
no.
It,
There's no zoning, none. Nothing is zoned.
okay, so there's already commercial properties, but they can do it without zoning.
Right.
Okay, so then why are we pushing zoning if they can already,
Again, it's,
What he's trying to
Please
tell
vote
you
yes
is,
or no.
if there's no zoning, anybody can come in here and do anything they want to.
wherever they want,
Okay.
wherever
Wherever
they
they
want.
want.
okay, okay,
that's-
I
So that's-
went off the wrong trail on that one.
I'm sorry.
What I was-
I've lived here a month.
I understand the
This
point.
place
though.
is so
Just-
polarized,
you
I
can't stop
can't
it.
believe it.
No,
You're right, it's not gonna
my,
stop it.
just a second, my point was,
Man.
now I lost it.
I'm sorry.
Now, no,
As
my
I said
point
before
was
though,
that, my point was that, oh, I know what it was. It was that a lot of what is being proposed is nuisance laws and not zoning. And that's what the majority of the concern is all these nuisance laws that are being thrown in there when it's being proposed as zoning. And,
that's the portion that the attorneys will tell you come with it. That, I mean, when you go to it, that's the part, those are the items that, especially, not, we don't have it in this one now, but especially when it was planned urban development. You can only have so many animal units per lot, you can't have unlicensed cars, you can't
yeah,
have,
there was still
that was
something.
all, if you're gonna have that zone, you have to cover those laws. If that's what you're gonna call it as a urban development, or if that's what you're gonna call it as commercial, they all have to apply to this. Those laws or those rules have to apply to everyone who would go into that.
If you have an urban development plan.
We don't, yes, or even commercial. So much parking, so you're gonna have so many handicap parking spots, you're gonna have there's all those things that go with it. And yep,
But St. Joseph is a Wisconsin township that's heavily zoned, but nowhere in the St. Joseph ordinance does it say my house has to be greater than 900 square feet. Nowhere in
Can I
the
address that, Mike?
I think it does.
That was one of the things that was coming out of it. That was one of the things that was coming out of the, yeah, that was one of them, but
And,
can't do it now.
well, that doesn't matter, at this point, that's dead. What we have written is dead. I'd entertain an idea of having a group of people that, with various, things that read what we have. I wanna change this, I wanna change that, bring it to the planning committee. They bring it to the lawyer, I think that's reasonable. I mean,
Can I
and
make a
then,
suggestion on that group, Mike? That the membership in that group not be board members.
well, the planning committee, well, only one can be, on the planning committee, only one
And I
board.
would suggest it be you.
Well, that board wouldn't be a board, that would just be a
No,
committee.
That's just a
that would be
conversation.
not the
An
board
informal.
All right, can I ask my question? All right, is there a reason, or is it illegal to not read the minutes right here tonight? Or is it,
Annual meeting, mean?
yeah,
We're
yeah.
done with that. We're done with that.
Yeah, the annual meeting will be
Mhm.
read at the next annual meeting.
So, okay,
This town board meeting is gonna read last month's town board meeting, and that's it.
okay,
Those minutes will be read at the next annual meeting,
okay. I have,
and they'll be posted.
sure, I have one statement and then one more question. Statement is, I like that you're not yelling at us. That's really nice.
Thank you.
And another one is, the question is, was the town board powers rescinded?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 37 to 8.
Village powers.
Village powers, okay,
Yeah, really.
okay,
And the zoning authority, they're two different things. Village powers are different than zoning authority.
okay.
You'd
I
have
just-
to have-
But
you'd
the
have to
zoning
get-
authority comes under the village power, so if you lose village power, you lose them.
Okay.
You say that you're not able to do other things. How did they do them before?
They didn't
village
have
powers
them.
were-
Didn't have any.
We got village powers when we had, it's back before my time, if I understand correctly, there was a a zoo, for lack of a better word, and.
Lions, tigers, and bears.
Yeah, and they had tigers and bears and things, and they were, so that's when we started it, that's when it started. And then this concept called smart growth, so however long ago Thompson was governor, that's when this started, well before my time.
It's my,
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, we do have to get,
it's, can I just comment one short thing? It's my understanding what you're saying about that, about the, being able to take care of, I couldn't really hear what you had said earlier, that you can't take care of now, but it's my understanding that without the village powers, then taking care of those things would fall to a vote amongst the public. So that you can go forward with those
Correct.
things, isn't it?
correct, but
What
we,
kinds of things are you talking about?
Well, I couldn't hear what he said
oh,
earlier,
the
that
record,
they
we have to
can't
make an
do
amendment to our record.
The public can't do it for us.
the what?
The public can't do the voting for us. That has to be you just can't. The public can't take over things that, village powers gave the board. The public can't suddenly make those decisions, can they?
No,
No, okay.
no,
What was it that you said earlier that you can't do now because they
well, we
were-
can't enact any ordinances at all.
But
Without
something
village
you
powers.
said you had
And we can't
to-
amend village powers. We got a thing from the attorney that the state law changes something. And that may be something that we can, I don't know, like I say, there's some exceptions. But we can't amend any existing ordinances or add any new ones.
Yeah, I just thought you named something specific that you
There
needed to
is,
take care
there's
of.
one for record keeping that was at our last, meeting. That was, something to do with the statute changing on how we keep our records. And I don't
Oh,
know.
records, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna close public comment. Yeah, go ahead.
I got a question. I just been listening. Roger Tim went and cut these trees down along the road, which is really nice, but it opened it up so when you drive up out my driveway down the hill, it looks kind of scary down in there. As far as I know, I've been here most of my life. There's only one car that went down through there, an old Model A, and I think part of it's still laying there.
Mine went
But-
down there.
Pardon?
Mine went down there once.
Not fun.
Anyway,
So
I'm
you
wondering
missed one.
what would it cost to put a guardrail in there? And I know it's gonna be expensive, but I can even help. I used to lay guardrail for Sweeney Brothers.
I don't have any idea what guardrail costs.
It's been that
I
way
know
for
we
years
have
and
to-
years, so.
I know we have to keep 66 feet of roadway clear of trees by state statute. So we don't have an option, even if it's a really pretty one. It- 66 feet of roadway has to stay, if somebody ran in a ditch and hit a tree that was 60 feet into the roadway and there was only 60 feet clear, we'd be liable, or could be. So that, the 66 feet of roadway has to stay clear by state statute, correct, Roger? Yeah, yeah. Or is it 63? No, 66, 33 feet from the center of the road. Yeah. So that's why we have to go with that boom mower and knock all the stuff down and knock all the trees down and mow all the ditches. It's not a question of would we really want to, but we have to. Okay, let's, I'm gonna close the public comment, and we'll start with the regular board meeting, and, we'll put on the agenda when we're gonna discuss it again. In my mind, I'd like to just wait a little while. Let's get some emotion removed, let things just calm down, we'll wait a little while, and then we'll make a determination of what direction to go. Because the knee-jerk reaction is very seldom the right one. So, we'll just wait a little while, and we'll put it on the agenda when we wanna discuss the path forward. But good input. Okay, public comment is closed. Let's move on to, the Miniman certified survey map that we have presented. I don't know if we have a representative here from the,
No. He brought me up a check today.
oh, okay, so it's, I sent me this on an email and I didn't see anything, ridiculous. It's 2 acres. It's, even if we, so I guess, Bob, did you have a chance to look at it? Okay, well, I'll make a motion
Thank
to
you.
accept this certified survey map as proposed.